This is an ABP Live Podcast.
And today we have with us Miss Chitwan Mittal, the author of these lovely children's books. Hello, ma'am. How are you doing?
Very well, Niharika. Thank you for having me here.
I
Very
am
excited
so,
to be with you
yeah,
today.
definitely, ma'am. And I'm so happy that I've gotten the opportunity to have this conversation with you because you have written some really lovely children's books. And writing books for children, I feel that it is a tougher task than actually writing for adults. Because as adults, we know a lot of things, we understand a lot of concepts, but when it comes to children, they actually don't know a lot of things. So you really need to be very gentle and very specific when it comes to writing for them. How has your journey been as far as writing for children is concerned?
I would say for me, it's more natural to write for children than to write for adults.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
something that has always interested me, and I've always had a passion for picture books. Even as an adult, I used to find myself browsing through children's picture book sections and
Yeah.
looking for books that were very beautiful, and the way, I mean, finding books that were written very subtly and
Hmm.
that were very inspiring. And I always wish there were more books that were of that caliber in South Asian publishing. So in that way, it's something that's more natural to me. And but you're right, it's in a certain sense, it is also something that's very challenging, because you
Yeah.
want to take something that we think of as an adult concept, but we want to say it simply. I don't think children don't know these things. It's a matter of presenting it in a way
Hmm.
that makes sense to them
Yeah.
and that they can relate to. So to do it in that way is the challenge.
Very well
um,
said.
yes, but it's been a very fun and beautiful journey. I've been enjoying it thoroughly.
I think even as I recall, when I started reading, of course, at a very early age, I used to love picture books and I used to browse through them. And even at a later stage, somewhere, I think in my sixth or seventh standard, when I actually got into novels, my very first
Yeah.
novel used to be The Diary of a Wimpy Kid, which again is a book with pictures in it. So I think it's
Mhm.
always better to start with something that is more engaging to the eye, something that you
Yeah.
feel more connected to. And that is why I think your books are really a perfect way for children to actually get into the whole habit of reading, which again is a very important habit when it comes to learning a lot and when it comes to life in general, because books can be everything to us. Books can be just something that we read for leisure, it can be something that we learn out of. And having said that, you have very thoughtfully created your stories, that is your entire series of Learn to Be, where you associate an important trait and value with a saint, kindness with Mahavira, peace with Buddha, and service with Guru Nanak. So how did you come up with this entire concept of associating a particular type of value with a saint?
So it's always, philosophy has always been interesting for me, and spirituality has always been interesting to me. Um, we grew up in an atmosphere where we were introduced to these philosophies when we were young. My mother used to be very interested in finding out answers to these complex problems of life, and she would read a lot of different saints and philosophers books,
Okay.
and call a lot of saints to come to our house,
Hmm.
give talk. And she would create opportunities for us to ask them questions. But I always found that it wasn't easy to understand what they said. It
Hmm.
was often the answers were presented in a very convoluted manner,
Yeah.
and I always wish there was a way it was presented so that children could understand very
Yeah.
directly and
Hmm.
simply and clearly the message of these saints, because the messages that they have said are of universal value. They are
Very true.
not complicated, they are not, I mean, there can be simple complex answers. It
Yeah.
depends on how deep you want to go into them,
Right.
but in its heart, in its essence, they are simple. And for example, Mahavir says that every living being has a soul,
Hmm.
whether it's an ant or it's a human being or it's a elephant. It has a soul, and each soul is of equal value. So you should be kind to all.
Hmm.
So that is not a complex message, but to say it, to explain it simply, yes, we will teach our children in our history books who Mahavir was, which year
Hmm.
he was born,
Right.
and where he lived, but then we don't bother to explain to them what did he say.
Yeah.
And we don't say it in a way that's relatable to them. So
Hmm.
in this series of books, what we try to do is explain that essence of that message, bring out the universal value of that message. So it's not like that the Mahavir book is only for Jain children or the Guru
Yeah.
Nanak book is only for 6 years. It's not that.
Hmm.
It is anybody can read those books, and it talks about simple things, that what can you do to serve, because Guru Nanak says, okay, you must serve by serving a human being, serving the environment, by serving your friend, you are serving God. So
Yeah.
you must serve. And he says you can serve with your body, you can serve with your mind, you can serve with the things that you own. These are very simple things he said. Um, but to bring out those simple things and say it to a child, and then we've given examples of what can a child do, how can he serve with his body, how can he serve with his mind. If his friend is, for example, struggling to understand a mathematical concept and he's understood that, maybe he can help him
Explain it to him.
understand that
Yeah.
concept. That is how he can serve his friend, with
Yeah.
his mind. So, a very simple way of explaining the concept, relating it to the child's daily life.
Hmm.
That was the main aim of this series. And I think hopefully people will appreciate that.
Definitely, ma'am. And as you said in between, that it is not just a Sikh child who can read about Guru Nanak, but anyone can. And I think in today's world, the kind of world that we live in, tolerance is coming down as the day goes. And having said that, we need to build in our children the tolerance towards and the respect towards each and every faith, no matter whichever faith you might follow. And I think your books are a very nice way and a very gentle way of telling them that every faith has something to that we can learn from. And I think it's an amazing way to tell the children that kindness is not just something that maybe you need to follow, but it is something that everyone follows, and it's a very easy thing to understand, but you made it even easier to understand for the children. So I think it's a great effort from your end to actually make the children understand the importance of kindness and service. It's really a great thing to do. And you just mentioned that from your childhood, you remember that how your mother used to share things that other saints used to say. They used to invite other saints to your house for talking. So what was that one book or maybe a series of books that really stayed with you from your childhood and is still something that inspires you, or you always, reminisce that particular book from your childhood?
One of the initial books I read on philosophy were autobiography of a yogi, which is
Okay.
something that I really enjoyed, and I would love to go back and read it. And as I grew older and I started delving into philosophy a little bit more, I
Hmm.
read a few books by Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, and those are something that are very, very close to my heart. And Mother has written a lot about educational philosophy also. So
Okay.
that has also affected my understanding of pedagogy, and how, I mean, also my writing process and how things should be written. So those are things I keep referring to and would like to keep going back to.
Definitely. And as you said, that things that we learn in our childhood, they sort of stay with us throughout our lives. And you have also written another very lovely book that goes by the name of Emotions. Sorry. Uh,
Are your emotions like mine?
yeah. Are your emotions like mine? So this particular book, I think it's a very important way of telling children that emotions are a very important part of our lives. Each and every action that we do throughout our day, it is fueled by some sort of a particular emotion that we feel. So how is your book going to help children in understanding the whole idea and the concept of emotions?
So I think our understanding of child development has evolved, and now we really give enough importance to emotional development.
Hmm.
Schooling and child rearing is not just about mental development and
Hmm.
physical development like it previously was.
Yeah.
So we recognize the importance of talking to the child about emotions, helping the child understand the different emotions that they feel during the course of a day,
Hmm.
And for the youngest of children, it is important to first recognize these emotions, give a name to them, that okay, now I feel happy, now I feel sad,
Hmm.
or I'm excited, or I'm feeling angry, or I'm feeling what are these different things that I'm feeling. And they feel so many different things during one day.
The
It's
entire
not
day.
one thing. They might be very very excited one minute because they have a party to go to, or they're
Hmm.
receiving a new toy, or there's a new dress, or there's some exciting food. And the next minute, the mother won't even know, suddenly they're feeling really upset, maybe
Yeah.
something went wrong, their drawing got spoiled, their toy got broken, and then
Yeah.
suddenly they're very sad. So to recognize those emotions, to put a name to them, and then begin to learn how to deal with them.
Hmm.
How do we get out and process those emotions that make us down, make us sad, make us unhappy, make us angry? How to process those and to get out of that and feel happy again, to feel a kind of inner peace. So the book kind of deals with a few of those things, to take a deep
Okay.
breath, to find that calmness within at a very very simple stage. And I've done read this book now with very young children,
Hmm.
from 2 3 year olds to even yesterday I was talking to a book club with children who were 11 12 year olds,
Okay.
and they all enjoy this and are able to relate to it. Because even at that stage, you're still, even as adults actually, you're still processing and
Processing.
learning every day
Definitely.
how to deal with yourself, your own
Yeah.
emotions, what are your triggers, how to deal with them. Even I think it's a lifelong journey.
I think even as adults, it becomes a more difficult process to actually understand your emotions. So, if we have something like the book that you have written at a very early stage, that is probably at during our childhood, if we go through such things, I think it sort of makes the process a little easier, because if you understand such emotions, the kind of emotions that we have as a child, then it gets much better at a later stage in our life. And having said that, we live in a world where we are these days talking about mental health, and it is something that is growing, which is a very good thing, because late hi sahi, but at least we are working towards understanding the human mind and the human emotions. So
Yes.
how important do you think that it is to learn about emotions at an early stage, and how do you think it will help children at a later stage to understand their mental health and to engage with it?
No, I think this is absolutely indispensable. I think it must be there in every school from the youngest of ages. We need to give it equal importance and spend a lot of time doing socio emotional development in schools. We need many, many, many more books and resources for teachers like this,
Yeah.
whether it's toys or objects, and um, there's so many ways of introducing and talking to them about
Hmm.
emotions, whether it's role play, whether it's circle time, whether it's storytelling, where a lot of things are required to tackle social emotional development in kids, and it needs to be done right from the youngest of ages, right from when they're
Very
babies
true.
and they haven't even started going to school. So
Yeah.
parents need these resources as well, not just teachers.
Right. And ma'am, you just said that you were engaging with a book club where there were children and they were talking, and you were talking about your book. So, what were the kind of responses that you got from them? Like, what were the kind of things that they said, and what were their musings about your book as you talked about it?
I know they were very engaged with this book. It was more like a storytelling, and
Hmm.
they were all able to relate with this experience of, yes, okay, there's a page where we talk about, you get angry, and then sometimes the illustration is very very beautiful, where
Hmm.
the artwork, there is a little girl in this book, and she's with
Okay.
her friend, which is a lion, throughout the
Okay.
day. And as she goes through the day experiencing different emotions, the friend is with her and he's experiencing similar things.
Hmm.
So it's a very beautifully illustrated page in which the girl has made some artwork, and it's gotten messed up, and there's
Okay.
maybe the lion scribbled over it, and there's a lot of angry lines all over the place. And
Okay.
she's very very angry with him, and all the children could relate to this. They make something, and then a
Hmm.
younger brother maybe spoils it,
Yeah.
or somebody throws it away, maybe thinking it's just a scribble. And then for them it meant so much that at that point they are really really mad.
Hmm.
And and right after that, because at that point you're not able to control your emotion
Hmm.
or process it, you might yell or say things you don't mean or stomp your feet, or you can see the girl really upset in that illustration.
Yeah.
And right after a few moments after that, the next page, she's now very, very sad because
Hmm.
she's been angry at her friend. And you can see that beautiful illustration where there's a little welling up of tears in her eyes, and she's sent her friend out of the home. The
Hmm.
lion is outside the window, and you can see that she's very, very sad too. And the children could all, in their own way, relate to this experience. And they were
Hmm.
all like, yes, uh, we can connect with it, whether it was the 5-year-old in the same workshop or the 11-year-old. Everybody could relate to it, as well as the teacher who was on the call. This
That's
happens to
beautiful.
everybody.
And ma'am,
Yeah.
as you said, that parents also play a very important role in instilling into the children the kind of emotions, the kind of values that make them socially acceptable adults. So your books, they are all about emotions, they're all about values. But if they're not fed to the children the right way, then I think then the children won't understand it. So what are the kind of tips that you would like to give the parents who are out there reading out aloud your books to their children? What is the right way to actually go about this whole process, that they talk to their children, they read it out, and then post that also, because just reading might not do the job. You actually have to talk about the kind of story that was there in the book. So what are your tips for parents out there who are doing this?
Absolutely. I think definitely reading is not the only, like, the end goal
Yeah.
of learning, because that is like saying I give a lecture and you just, it's like, I'm pouring jug of water into a glass. No, it's not like that. It is more like uncovering what is within the child. The
Yeah.
child from within is already kind,
Hmm.
and from within is already peaceful. What we need to do is what Socrates said, is uncover that inner knowledge that the
Hmm.
child already has. And the story is a starting point for that.
Right.
We start with a story, and then we talk about it. We use it as a
Example.
launching pad to
Yeah, yeah, right.
experience together. So if you use the emotions book, for example, you have, it presents so many opportunities for the parent or the teacher to have that conversation with the child on
Hmm.
what happens when this incident happens. What do
Right.
you feel? What do you do? What are the other things you can do? How else you can deal with it? Give an
Right.
example of this happened in my life, and this,
Hmm.
I and then and use it to open up, if it's in a classroom, a discussion on being angry or being sad. And if it's kindness, what are the things you can do to be kind, or what are the things you already done that are kind.
Right.
And use that as a platform to discuss, and you'll find that children already are aware of these things from a deeper
Hmm.
place. And it is bringing that to the forefront and bringing that knowledge from within.
Very rightly said. And I think that your books, they can also become examples, because we have seen that as children grow, we make them learn through examples. So maybe if they did something that upsets the parent, then they can say that, you remember in that book, you see that character, how he reacted, maybe you can learn from that, maybe you could have done that exactly how you just said. So I think books are a very amazing way to actually make children learn very complicated things in a very simple and very fun manner, because they love seeing drawings, they love seeing colorful things, and they, whether or not they understand the entire concept, they do relate to it.
Yes.
They do. If they see a little girl out there, just as you said, that they would relate that, okay, this is me, or maybe this is my sister, or maybe this is my brother. And I think that's a lovely way of making them understand such complex concepts of life. So
Yes.
anything that you would like to share with us about your books, something that you
Um,
really like about them, or something that is very specific about them?
so definitely in the Learning to Be series, which is the
Hmm.
kindness with Mahavira and peace with Buddha and service with Guru Nanak, we have given a lot of examples, like you said. Examples are definitely a superior way of learning than instruction.
Hmm.
It
Right.
is a higher form of teaching than just giving instruction, because instruction may not seep in as much as seeing an example.
Yeah.
And I think in our books, in these three books in particular, we have a lot of examples which are there in terms of the text as well as the illustrations.
Hmm.
They've been very, very beautifully illustrated. And the kindness book says, uh, are there ways that you can be kind, very, very kind to ants and insects, birds and bees, to fish in rivers, plants and trees, to friends in school or mom at home, to the old man walking all alone? And
Hmm.
there's just suggestions like, can you be kind? How can you be kind? And the
Yeah.
illustrations show different children being kind to the environment, to their friends, to their parents, and to the elderly. And I think it's so subtly done and so beautifully illustrated that it would make a mark in the soul of the child, not just
Hmm.
mentally, which might be
Yeah.
superficial and away, but touch the child maybe deeper within.
And I
And
think
I think
children,
that
yeah.
is,
Yeah, yeah, please
yeah,
go
another example from
on. So
Service
sweet.
with Guru Nanak,
Yeah.
where you have an illustration where the girl is putting the fish back from her tank into the ocean. And while she's doing it, the little boy is giving her shade from an umbrella. It's
That's so
very, very
sweet.
subtle way of
Yeah.
showing service and kindness. So yes, the books really try to, teach by example, which is, as you suggested, definitely a better way of teaching than just instruction.
Definitely. And children tend to have a picturesque memory, photographic
Yes.
memory. So even if they don't remember what was written in that book, they would remember the small illustrations, they would remember the rhyme. The rhyme part,
Yes.
I think it's a very nice, again, way of explaining a complex thing, because when they tend to sort of connect the two things together. And I think that's a very, again, a very easy way of taking the children along and making them understand things that are actually really maybe not even difficult, but it is sort of very important for children to inculcate such values, to understand such values, because at a later stage in life, maybe they are in situations where they need to make a decision, where they need to deal with the situation, and such things, if they stay with them, they can really create good human beings, which we really need in today's life. So thank you so much, ma'am, for coming with us, for talking to me, and actually explaining to us that how reading such beautiful and lovely books at such an early age can actually make well adjusted adults. And thank you so much for joining me today.
It was a pleasure, Neha. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am.